The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine. Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell.
And it's Peyton Jones with an apple in my mouth.
And an afternoon podcast. I got an apple in my mouth and an afternoon podcast.
Hey, that's what happens on the afternoon podcast. Anything can happen in the afternoon podcast.
Pretty much anything. Hey, I just got done with lunch with Doc Pierce.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How's he doing these days?
He's doing good. He's doing real good.
Bad. Now, did he hire you, and that's why you threw his name out there? So, by the way, if you need chiropractic, yeah, boom, done, in the can.
No, I don't think he's a chiropractor anymore. I think he sold his business. Oh, really? Yeah, he sold it.
What's he do now? What's he do?
Oh, from what I understand, he pretty much just sits around eating bonbons and chilling.
Nice.
You know he's
golfing all day.
You know he's a fellow gun lover, right? He's a CCW guy.
Is he really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've gone to the gun show together. That's how you know if you're my real friend. Have you gone to the gun show with me?
No, but have you seen that in Anaheim in a couple days they're bringing Halo?
I did. You tagged me on that post.
Oh, my gosh, dude. You know why I tagged you is because I'm like, I know I'm going to forget about this, and we so need to not forget about this. We need to go.
Here's the funny thing. I've played Halo, but I got to this one level, and I couldn't get past it, and now it just sits on my iPad. And I've never tried it again.
Was it the infamous car level at the end?
Oh, I'm not even close to the end. You got to understand, Spider Solitaire is about as freaky as I get on games.
And yet, ironically, you worked for a video game company. So it was like...
Isn't that funny?
I know, right?
I had so many friends who were like, you work there? You work with Baldur's Gate people and Black Isle Studios? And I'm like, yeah, they're all jerks. Shut up.
So, really funny thing about that. And I did not know that you worked for the company that did Baldur's Gate, because that game's epic. Like,
is it?
You look at it now and it's really lame, but like for people that are into like World of Warcraft and all that kind of stuff, that was like that was a game that kind of started it all.
One of the games that they made that they pumped millions into was called Messiah. And you were a little cherub angel who would come down and possess people. And that game blew up people's computers literally. Like, the graphics were so intense, it was causing people's hard drives to have smoke come out, and it total flop because of everything that happened. And I still remember this one guy, I was in the office with him, and he was talking to my boss, and he goes, well, isn't there that part in the Bible about taking God's name in vain? And I'm thinking, wow, you were so not a Christian, and even you know that was stupid. So
yeah, man, like you see the irony here, right? Like a cherub that comes down and possesses people and takes them over, and here's this game you put in, and it's like the energy comes in and possesses your computer and zaps it and blows it up. I mean, there is a certain amount of irony in that.
I think it's funny that that's exactly where your mind went, because that thought had never crossed my mind before.
Because that's actually kind of what happened. It was like, hey, you just lived it. Game over. Sucker.
Thank you for your $49.95.
That's right. Man, they must have gotten a huge, like, did they get a class action suit on that?
Oh, gamers don't ever organize. Are you kidding? They couldn't do a class action lawsuit.
That's like church planners.
It'll never happen.
I mean, I know that Paul planted in teams and all, and we see that in the New Testament, but yeah, we'll just do it on our own. Church Zero, cha-ching.
So if you are new to our merry little band we like to call the Church Planter Podcast, you might be thinking to yourself, I thought this was going to be about church planting, and boy, were you wrong.
Yeah, we have this thing called Smack Talk that lasts 30 minutes to just take your grubby little finger and scrub ahead if you don't like the smack. We just talk. I mean, and it's never planned. But although I did hang up on you earlier, I'm like, dude, save it for the smack. Bye.
I know. What were we talking about? See, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
I don't remember.
That's why it doesn't work that way.
So, hey, I was going to ask you, you said that you thought there were some bad things to the keto diet. What did you think were bad about them?
Oh, so if you're not careful with the keto, people report that they start getting heart palpitations, increased anxiety, and what seems to be almost like a mini heart attack or tachycardia. So you just got to be careful. I don't know why it does that, but
it could be they were just watching It from Stephen King at the same time, and
it could be that, Pete. It's an afternoon podcast. You know, you gotta roll with the dad jokes.
So I was just curious because for our listeners, they know I got an addictive personality. Like, I admit it. I got an addictive personality. That's all there is to it. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, man, it's so good that I never tried weed, because I'd probably have like a bong wall with every bong you could imagine. Like, that's how addictive my personality is.
You'd be living in Thailand at the beach. I mean, that's you wouldn't even be an American anymore.
So I've been reading all these books, and like, one book led to another, and I wanted to read up on fasting and intermittent fasting and all that type of stuff. Yeah. And that was actually the reason I was meeting with Doc Pierce, because I know he's into fasting and stuff, and I really wanted to get his thoughts on it. And dude, I read a couple of books this week that blew my mind when it comes to health. Like this guy, he's a doctor, like a medical doctor. He's a kidney doctor. And he is full on reversing type 2 diabetes in patients. Like,
what was his name?
Jason Fung.
Okay.
And that wasn't why I read it, but I ended up even reading that book because I was like, dude, I've never heard that. And one of the lines...
Did he mention by any chance Richard Aguilar?
I don't know.
In that book? Because that's a friend of mine. He does some pioneering work in that.
Well, what was amazing is, like, he's got clients who've been on, insulin for 20 years, and he's gotten them to the point where they're not technically diabetic anymore. Like, their blood work, they're off all medications, their blood work's back normal, and you're taught the exact opposite. Like, my whole life I've heard from my family, because it runs in my family. I've been told it's a progressive disease. It's just going to get worse. That's the only thing. It's always going to get worse. And one of the lines in his book that like stuck out to me is he goes, when the medical industry says there's no cure for diabetes, what they mean is there's no drug cure for diabetes. And they're correct. Mm-hmm. There isn't one.
Yep.
He goes, but we're successful at doing this because this right over here is a natural cure for it. And it's basically diet and fasting. Like he does a ton of fasting, but he lists all the studies. Like, he's not like making up stuff. He's a medical doctor, and he's like, this study and this study and this study and this study, and this is, and this is why this happens when you take insulin, and it like literally blown. And then you can't argue with the actual numbers, like the blood test. I mean, it's really easy to see if he's legit or not by just doing the blood test. It's fascinating. All this stuff is so fascinating to me. And that's what actually the reason why I remembered you had said that there are some problems with the keto diet. And I was like, he's a really big believer in the keto diet as part of that reversal, if you will. Yeah. And by the way, guys, if you're listening, you got type 2 diabetes, he says all over his books, you have to do it with your doctor. You don't just do what he's suggesting on your own, because your medicine is based on how you eat. And when you start changing that,
I get all my health advice from the Church Planner podcast.
I know, right? Dude, I'm going to be starting up another podcast. It's going to be health.
Did I ever mention on this podcast, because I know I just mentioned on my other podcast, which is Ministry Ninja, which, I interviewed Mac Lake on health. Ironically.
Did you? I thought we were going to do that. I'm feeling kind of dirty now. Like I've been two-timed by you.
I forgot we said we were going to do that, but I interviewed him on that. But me and you need to do that as a topic here.
Totally do.
But here's the thing is that, and by the way, I interview all my guests on health. It's kind of, I have a problem. I can't stay faithful to one podcast guest.
Tell me about your stool, Peyton.
It's so funny because I actually know a lot about reading people's stools. I might as well be like reading the tea leaves or something, because when you study to be an RN, you learn a lot about Dookie. I'm just saying. You learn way too much. There's never... I better stop. Never. It changed me for life. I can't just go to the bathroom like normal people now and flush it. I have to examine it.
Nice.
It's not good. But anyways, and then the members of my household...
our church planners listen to this podcast with their kids, and can you imagine the car ride on the way to school or church right now? And now they're like, all right, let me explain to you. There's no explanation. There really is.
There's that the guy finally has just looked over at his wife in the car and been like, with that guilty look, and he just shuts the radio off.
Right now, he's just like, okay, you were right. That's all he said. Just, okay, you were right. And we know what the rest of the conversation was.
The final defeat has just occurred. There's nothing you can say about that. And he can't even look at her and say, but it was an afternoon podcast, because she won't understand.
She won't understand that. Yeah.
So, here's the thing. Going back to that, I had just talked to Mac about health, and I brought up on there that interesting little factoid about John Wesley. He actually wrote a medical textbook.
He had irritable bowel syndrome, didn't he? Sorry, this is just going bad. It's going downhill.
Are you making that up?
Yeah, of course I'm making it up. Of all the things I would know about John Wesley, I know he's got irritable bowel syndrome.
That's so rad. Because I was about to fall for it. I was like, oh, did he now? But,
so bad. This podcast starts out bad and it goes downhill fast.
Anyway, what was amazing about him, though, is, he's looking at Paul and he's looking at all the things that Paul does. And I still maintain that Wesley is the closest thing that we've had to the Apostle Paul. Just in almost every, from his tenacity to his kind of like, hey, screw you attitude at times, to his, the way he has bust-ups of people, to some of his real hardline stances on that, but also his activity. And he wrote a medical textbook because obviously this guy is horseback riding like 100 miles a day through rain. I mean, like the old Postman commercial, neither hail nor sleet nor rain, and he's a circuit rider who inspires a whole generation of young men to become these circuit riders, these hardcore like Pony Express riders that sleep out, in the open. And he would go to an inn or a tavern, and he would book a room and he would sleep on the floor. He's like, it's just better for me. I don't know how I can tell you that. I just know it's, and he'd write things like, it's good for the Constitution. But, to come to find out so much, like he would do that cold bath, not the hot bath. And he'd say, it's really good for me. So when you start studying, like health gurus, they're saying, no, that's so good for you. And here's why. And, there's so many, now there's some really funny things in there that you definitely should never try, like slathering your body with oatmeal naked and dancing under the moonlight, which of course John Wesley never did. I totally made that up. But there are some really comical things if you read about his textbook, but he published it, and he absolutely published it because he believed the connection between health and mission. And he was like, look, if your body, like you just can't be a circuit rider if you're not in physical shape. Yeah. Like you just could not physically do it. So it's pretty rad.
Well, that's my thing. Is you guys all know I am a highly addictive personality, so when I jump into stuff, I jump into it with both feet. So.
But it's good because I actually think, unlike your past hobbies, which were going to cause everyone to either wear like, Star Wars underwear. So I'm sure there's a bunch of church planners running around in Star Wars and Marvel underwear. That was the first phase. Or like the second phase where it was everybody's going to go out and buy a charger and get in trouble with their wives because they're church planners. Or the last one where, they're going to all be conceal carry and shooting everything that moves. You want to keep going down to the waistband during the church service.
You want to know what's funny is I wear Star Wars underwear while driving in my Charger on my way to the range where I'm going to shoot my firearms. And now I do it with the ham sandwich. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, but now
with a salad
on your way to Whole Foods.
That's true. I do Sprouts. Sprouts is closer.
Oh, Sprouts is so good too. Oh man, I love that place,
dude. It's literally like my mind is like, wow, I cannot believe what I didn't know and what was an absolute.
Your health woke.
In some ways, yeah. In some ways, I'm like, okay, that's like I already told you guys after I saw that documentary a couple of months ago. Like, I will never drink another soda, sugar or sugar-free ever again. Like, that'll never happen. After I saw that, and I was like, okay, now that I
where they put the holes in the brain.
No.
Oh.
I don't
Diet
know what
soda?
you're talking about. I'm not sure I want to know. Dude, that was the other thing, too. Doc Pierce today, he goes, hey, do you have any fillings? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, go YouTube this video. And I'm like, no. And he goes, why not? And I go, because I don't want to know, man. I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's in my tooth right now, seeping into my body. Yeah.
You know what the sucky thing was about? Hey, I just got an Apple Watch. I have no clue how to use this thing, but it just told me to breathe. Hey, I got news for you, Mr. Apple Watch. We're talking about health right now.
You're like,
I'd be dead. I'd be dead. Like it told me, live a better day by taking a minute to breathe. Okay.
Do you want to know some really good advice with your Apple Watch? Because I have one. Do you want to know?
I do. I don't know for a podcast list.
No. Don't want to unstrap it right now. Hold it in front of you. Just but off your wrist. I know you didn't unstrap it. Unstrap it.
Okay. Here comes. All right, there we go.
All right, I heard it. All right. Now stretch it out with your hand and throw it against the wall.
The biggest waste of money ever.
The biggest waste of money I ever spent was on my Apple Watch. I'll never do it again. Yeah, I'll never do it again.
Like, so what is this thing for? I don't get. It started to tell me how to use itself when I first got it, and then all of a sudden it interrupts itself to go. Well, I don't know.
Touch me right here.
Oh,
turn this knob.
Afternoon podcast. I am a YouTube listener. We will get to the goodness. I'm not
YouTube
responsible
listener.
for him.
What are we on YouTube now?
Oh, was it YouTube?
That's what you said. You said YouTube listener.
I must have been thinking about my YouTube channel, Ministry Ninja.
Jeez, could you plug one more thing?
And it's not a book, so I don't have to say cha-ching.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, that was a Freudian slip. But anyways, yeah, so... but it interrupted itself to tell me, like, hey, done linking or syncing with your iTunes or whatever it was. And I'm like, I need to know how to use you. So I'm wandering around now, lost. Like, I got this mini computer that I dreamt about all my life when I was a kid. I used to watch this show, and you obviously did not watch this because you're younger than me, but also you're Baptist. So you weren't allowed to watch these kind of shows, but was. And Fuzzy Wuzzy was a Baptist, but is no more. But there was a show called The Great Space Coaster. Did you ever see that?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, dude! Remember the guy had the watch?
No,
but he had to open it up and it go zzz, and like all of a sudden, like the camera would zoom into this like digital thing that was going nuts. And then you would watch some video, and I remember as a kid thinking, "Whoa!" But my watch still can't do that. Still can't do that.
I know
it
too bad.
Can show me my calendar. Oh, what day is it? You can show me the time.
Oh, it's time to breathe. Breathe.
What time is it?
You need to breathe.
I need to breathe.
Don't quit breathing.
I can read my email title.
Oh, stand up.
My email.
Time to stand. Stand up. Time to stand.
Well, I haven't been wearing it for a few days, so every day when I pick it up, it goes, "Hey, we need to talk."
Does it really?
Yeah. It's like, "Hey, you didn't move at all yesterday. A little concerned about you." So
Nice.
it doesn't say it like that, but that's what it means. It goes, "Peyton, yesterday was not a good day for you." Like it gives me these little lectures. It says things like, "I know you can do better today."
You know, your watch is looking down its nose through its bifocals at you when you don't move enough.
I know. You know, and I told myself forever, I'm like, I'm not getting one because, but now this is how she got me. She goes, "Oh, so when you jog, you don't need to have your phone on you anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, that's rad," because I'm always carrying my phone, and I got the big one this time, the big phone.
Yeah,
like the
me
iPad
too.
Mini phone.
I wish I hadn't gotten that one. The
I know,
Max,
right?
It's so big and heavy. The thing is it's a brick.
I know, and my thumb isn't that long. I mean, I'm a short dude, and it's like my thumb is like trying to stretch across the screen. And I'm always lost on it. Like, I can't text in the car anymore. I mean, what was Apple thinking? Just teasing. Hate mail goes to pete@churchplannermag.com.
Because we all know where that goes.
I'm only teasing. But honestly, I'm like an old person now. I use this fangled thing. So, anyways. Yeah, what were we talking about? So I did go to Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like, it was just like, it was Nerd Christmas. That's what they call it. Nerd Christmas. Like, you go there and, you know what I bought? And I'm in the line at Lego, right? I bought a Lego. And I'm in the line and my wife is behind me and she comes up, she sees me looking at Voltron Lego. Now, I got to tell you about Voltron Lego. Now, keep in mind, I wrote Church Zero, cha-ching, right, which is about team church planes, so it involves like the FIST model or APES, whatever you want to call it. And what happens is, I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, I got to have this. Like, I have a Voltron toy as a tribute to Church Zero, cha-ching, in my office. And by the way, if you're new, we have a rule that if I say my book title, I have to say cha-ching. I don't know why. We've been doing this 7 years. I can't remember. But anyways, but I'm looking at this thing and this guy next to me is like, dude, he's like Zach the Lego Maniac, apparently. He's like built every Lego under the sun. He goes, "I get all these Legos." Because you'd only meet that guy at Comic-Con, right?
Right.
And he goes, "That's the best Lego I've ever built. Not because it's Voltron, but because it was just a good build, dude." I'm like, oh, really? And I'm thinking, this guy's crazy. And then my wife comes up and I'm looking at the price tag. Like, it's big. And what he said, and this was cool. This actually kind of tipped me over. First, he uses the marketing, it's not going to be around forever, He goes, "Actually, I'm surprised they have that because it's not in the stores anymore." So I'm like, oh no, scarcity, right? Fall into that marketing trap. But he's not an employee, he's a customer, unless he was a Lego plant. But then he says, but it actually does what Voltron does. So, like, no joke, the lions are self-contained and they fold up exactly like the show. And then they slot in exactly like the show. Like, I could make a YouTube video on Ministry Ninja, my YouTube channel, and I could literally put those things, socket them in, and reenact the whole Volt. Dun 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 dun. That's the song. And Voltron, cling, and so I'm looking at the price tag, and it's expensive. And I'm weighing all these things. I'm thinking, nah. And I said to Andrea, I want to get this, but it's kind of too much money. And the same alien that was inhabiting my wife, who said, "Get a bigger TV." No, don't you want the bigger one than that? Like, that same alien was in my wife's brain at that particular moment, and it had the floor, and it said, "You should get it." So I did. That was it. That was the story.
Oh, okay.
So I own Lego Voltron, and it's pretty cool, and I just wanted to talk about that.
I kind of want to get the Death Star Lego because of Spider-Man. Like every time Luke and I are at the Lego store, he's like, "Yeah, we should get that." And I'm like, dude, that thing's like, I don't know,
it's only $350.
Dude, right that's crazy.
Only $350, Pete.
That's crazy town. And right now, Luke makes me put it all together, and I'm like, dude, that's just like, that looks like work to me. It doesn't even look fun. It just looks like work.
But the Millennium Falcon is $800. How? But you can get a different version of the Millennium Falcon that I actually think is cooler for $200.
Or you just keep getting like the little 200-piece sets and be like, here you go, kid. Be happy with this.
Well, this is the thing. It's like getting a tattoo, right? Or buying a charger. You got to have more than one. Or
I have more than one. They make a lot of those little 200-piece sets.
I'm telling you, it's kind of like once you get one of the big ones, you kind of go, I want the other. It's weird. Like you start, it's like you passed over to the dark side, and you got to have the other ones. So I found myself Googling the Death Star. I found myself Googling the Millennium Falcon. And then I went to the Piece de Resistance, Jabba's sail barge. And I want it so bad. And, okay, I got to stop.
In other words, Church Planter, we'd like to ask you to pick up Reaching the Unreached by Peyton Jones. Maybe Church Zero. Let's support Peyton in getting these Legos.
I need that royalty check now.
Because right now, I think they're asking you for money every time they're supposed to issue a royalty check. They're all like, "Excuse me, sir, can you please pay us? We had to do some returns."
Yeah, you need to do better, Mr. Jones. Come on now.
Yeah, each time they send you a royalty check, it comes with a tip. We didn't know we could write a check this small. Here you go, man.
I still can't give any public details, but I signed that next contract.
They haven't signed it then. That's what you're telling me, right?
That's what I'm telling you. They're just thinking about it.
Why would they do that? Why are people so rude like that? You send me an agreement. I'm signing it. Here, you need to sign it and pay me my money.
Yeah. No kidding, right?
Pay me my money.
I need that Lego.
So we should probably get into today's topic. What is our topic today?
Probably should. I don't remember. All I can think about is Jabba's sail barge. All right. So here's the, and by the way, there's two. So if any millionaire church planner out there's like, I'm going to totally buy that for Peyton. It's the old one. The new one's only like $185. The old one's $400, and it's really rad. So anyways, our topic today.
Do I need to play Doc?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Great Scott! It's time for this week's topic.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay, so the topic today is how you can incorporate building Legos into discipleship and attract a new clientele of disciple. And you can use Jabba's sail barge for that. No, sorry. Our actual topic today.
It's now a ministry expense.
Voltron. You know, Voltron, I could use that when I teach my course on Church Zero. Cha-ching. Never thought about that.
Well, you could actually technically write it off if you used it in your trade show booth, because that's now decoration and actually it's advertising.
So no joke, years ago, everybody showed up. He-Man showed up. Mr. T showed up. Remember that? Mr. T at my booth? And,
I remember.
Yeah. And I still have him. He's pretty cool. Anyways, so our topic today is the little goals in church planning. Where this came from was there is a new breeder. I have to double check. Ask him, do you want to stay anonymous or do you want to be, do you want to shout out? And he said, dude, make me podcast famous.
Did he say that?
He did. So he's a new breeder. His name is Dustin Morrow. And he is a church planter in Texas, part of the network that I run. He is a barber. And he's the guy, I think I've mentioned before, that he says they get in that barber chair and it might as well be, I'm Father Confessor. And they're like, Father, forgive me, it's been 2 years, and they just sit there and tell him their sins. And he'll often, but when the haircut's done, he'll be like, hey, well, if you want to talk more, I'll be at the Cigar Lounge on Friday night. And he's just super highly missional. And so he's doing that. But he had a question. He was like, hey, look, because he's a barber and he does really well, but he's a doer. He's an achiever. He likes to do stuff. So sitting idle is not his thing. So the other day we were talking and he goes, hey, man, here's the thing that I struggle with. And I think a lot of people struggle with this. He goes, my question is, I'm realizing that I make huge goals when it comes to anything in my life, business, ministry, whatever. And I'll have this huge goal and I'll stick to it. But he goes, what's kind of become apparent to me, and for the people that are always on this journey with me, I don't celebrate the small wins along the way. And some people really need that. And so I thought his question was absolutely brilliant, because what he was saying was, Peyton, what are the small goals? Like, if I'm a big goal guy and I'm cool being a big goal guy, but I realize not everybody around me can handle that. And he said, so what would the small goals for a church planner be? And how would I celebrate those? And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to say that on the podcast. No, I'm teasing. I told him when he hit me with the question, I was like, dude, that's brilliant. Like, I would have never thought about that. But that is actually an amazing question.
Were you expecting me to chime in with something? Because I got nothing.
A little anecdote, a time when you were 4, and no, I'm teasing. But
yes, Peyton, that's a great question. I think we should actually kind of dive into that and talk about that on this particular episode.
Well, please, and you know what happens. I'll just keep talking. So, it's really cool because I wonder, like, are you kind of that way? Do you celebrate the small goals?
No, I actually was thinking, wow, man, I don't know if I'll be able to contribute on this topic, because I don't think I'm good at the whole goal setting thing. Yeah, I'm a guy who focuses on activity.
But I think you more focus on the end result, right? That's kind of what your eyes on is the result.
Not really the end result as so much the activity, because if you focus on the activity, then you'll keep going up. If you focus on the end result, then as soon as you hit it, you plateau. Because you're like, I hit it. I'm cool.
Oh, wow.
But like, if I know, okay, in order for me to make money, like last week I did a webinar. We sold 18 units of $1,000 product. Really good, right? So if my focus is, okay, what's my webinar this week? Who's my audience this week? Then I'll keep doing it. If I just focus on, well, I need, basically 20 grand after expenses each month to pay all, well, I shouldn't say after expenses, but I need that for my expenses for business and everything. Then I'm done. Okay. I just did 17. I mean, I got way more than that in residuals coming in. So cool. I'm done. And then I won't work anymore. So I can't focus on the result. I personally have to focus on the activity.
That's cool. That's actually pretty cool. Or I'll
plateau, and I don't want to plateau.
I never thought about that. Well, I think where it was coming from for him and for a lot of people is kind of like, picture like you're on a road. You get those road signs that tell you, and I don't know if you feel this way. I know I do. When I'm on a road trip, because I make that beast of a drive from San Diego all the way up to Bend, Oregon, sometimes about once a year. And, when you see like, hey, Klamath Falls, 260 miles when you hop on the 97 or whatever it is. And then you see that whittling down on a long drive and you're seeing like, 40 miles. Cause you're going to stop there and you get that Dutch Brothers coffee. And, you think, oh, cool, 40, but it's good to be reminded. If I didn't see a road marker in 260 miles, I might be starting to wonder like, how long is this going to be? And, when do I start feeling good about this? This is a really long haul. And I think marathon runners do that mentally. They count off miles. I know that when it comes to alcoholics or any narcotics, any of the AA groups, they would celebrate the small victories. Like they would say, hey, you made your 1 day, you made your, what is it? I can't remember. Is it like a 1 day, 30 day, 60 day, 1 year, 5 year? And then I don't know if they go beyond 5 year. I think they just talk about it, but they get that medal, at those markers. And it's a way that 30 day is a big deal. The 60 day is a big deal. And past that, it's like, well, you made 60, you can make a year now. And so that's celebrating in the long haul of lifetime sobriety. It's celebrating those little milestones. And that's what he was saying my team needs. So let's jump in and talk about it. I'm not a goal. I'm a list maker and a task. I'm a task crosser outer. Maybe that's the best way to put it. But when it comes to goals, the person that's helped me see this is probably the guy that helps most Christian leaders these days on this is Michael Hyatt. And that's because by the time I moved back, that dude was talking platform and I had a book coming out and I was like, oh yeah, my publisher talked about platform. What is that? And I still suck at platform, I think, but one never knows. But the reality is I started tapping into him like, this is good stuff he's saying. I never heard this stuff, right? Like I wasn't a nerd, wasn't a business person, so I don't know this stuff. But he would say, hey, rather than approaching your year as a series of tasks or your schedule, have goals. And then put your tasks within those goals and remind yourself daily, this is the goal. And these are the things I need to do to get there. And then he says, break it down a year. He has that yearly planner. And I found that really, really helpful. And the most helpful thing for me in that was, let's say he has 8 goals for the year, 10 goals for the year. I don't remember why it's not 12, but at the end of that, he has a reward. Like, so he has the motivation written there and you can look at this at a glance, but he says, reward yourself for each one. So when I'm sure some of you nerds out there are like, dude, you didn't talk about Comic-Con. Well, let me just say, I bought a couple things for myself because I had reached one of my goals. And one of those goals was finally finishing, and Pete's going to make fun of me here, but finishing Jump School core team training, which Jump School was always meant to be a core team training. Always. So, but anyways, the core team, I finished
And if you're
it.
wondering what Jump School he's talking about, so am I. So, good luck figuring that one out.
So anyways, I finished that. And then the other day, I was like, okay, I'm one lesson away from my next training, which is a citywide network training. That's something that's a cohort training that I'm developing right now. I'm one lesson away from that. So I'm like, okay, there's another huge milestone, and I'm celebrating. That's like a big thing, right? Like that would be the big boulder. It's not the little thing. So I'm not that great. I've gotten better at celebrating the big goals. And rewarding myself on the other end. So if I want to buy Voltron, I don't feel bad because I go, you know what? That's a way of just saying, hey, Peyton, you know what? You put a lot of work into that. Well done. Have yourself a Voltron Lego, right? Which, by the way, I don't normally buy Lego. Like, it's just kind of a thing. I was at Comic-Con, it was there, and Voltron, and I don't know, and I lost my mind. But, the reality is I'll build it with my daughter. But as far as the smaller goals, it just kind of made me think, like, yeah, I do think that would be good for planners. So the first thing that I mentioned to him on the call was, first off, I think character. When I think of church planners and character now, I think in the terms of health. I don't think in the terms of morality. Morality surely comes into it, but I see morality, when we talk about morality for a church, as a type of spiritual, psychological, and emotional health. So if a guy's having emotional affairs, he's got an issue with, there's some area in his life that God's not filling. If a guy's looking at pornography, there's some area in his life, some wounded part of his psyche probably. There's all these, or there's something that's not healthy in his marriage. And so what I would do is I would, and I've done this in my training recently, is put indicators of health on the planner so that he can self-assess where he or she is at and say, well, this is where my marriage is. This is where my mental health state is today. Or in the other case, my physical, because all of this is tied up with your physical. So like, people don't realize this, but like if you go swim in the ocean for like an hour, you're going to feel energized and you're not going to feel tired. You're going to feel refreshed. Something changes in your physical anatomy. Your mindset changes. The endorphins get released. There's all these amazing things that happen. Now that you're geeking out on health, Pete, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's just a difference. Your body starts to feel better and tighten up so you can work better. Your body's not in pain. You're not slothful. You'll feel all that. It's a knock-on effect. So one of the things I do is I have planners, they gauge themselves on like a scale of health, right? Which any church planner assessment you go to ought to be doing this for you. This is like a self-assessment for church planners. So if you come out healthy, and there's a way to grade yourself, then I think that's a win. Am I healthy? Am I not healthy? What's the win on health? And then if you go beyond that, because this is where I have to start, because to me, if the church is really just people and you're going to lead that, then you are more important than your church plant. So the church plant can wait. Like if you're not healthy, it can wait, right? I'd much rather have someone do something like that and go, maybe I'm not healthy enough to plant right now. And you're never going to be in perfect health, but that's a win. So going on from that, you would then look at your team and you'd have your team do the same thing. Are they healthy too? Right? That would be another goal, making sure that my team is healthy, right? But first, before you do that, you've got to recruit a team. So when I was talking with this planner, the next question came up, well, hey, I'm kind of a small launch guy. I'm not a big launch guy. And, most planners I work with are small launch guys. But, one of your, you could have your goals be things like recruiting a team to the optimum size. Well, what's the optimum size? Well, how long is a piece of thread? If you want a crowd, because you don't want to go out and reach people, then you can just have a crowd and look pretty hip-hop and happening without actually having to do any evangelism. Ouch. Sorry if you're a big launch guy because you're feeling that burn right now. And I'm just saying, like, I don't mind a big launch, but I mind a big launch that is in the absence of reaching people. So you can have a big launch, but don't use a crowd to substitute evangelism. So, but again, and that would be another one. Gosh, that brings up another one, that we have a mission. What's our mission? Have we defined our mission? Do we know what we're called to do as a church? There's a million different things God could be calling this old. So you define your mission, right? Then you put steps and actions into place that you're going to do. So like, you'll know from Refuge Long Beach that our mission was a moving target. And I still think that, like when people are like, that's what we're going to do on the 5-year plan. I struggle with that because Holy Spirit moves like the wind. And if he opens a big, giant doorway, I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to be like, well, that doesn't fit in with my 5-year plan, That's, and I'm being careful what I say here because I don't want to undermine what other people have said that's been really helpful, but that's not the whole picture for me, There's been some really good work. Like I would say Mancini does the vision frame, but, and that's a helpful tool, but I would say, and that would be a great thing to celebrate. We did our vision frame, Mancini in his book, Church Unique. It's a really helpful tool. But at the same time, the Holy Spirit might throw a total wrench in the gear of my stinking vision frame, and I'm cool with that. But my point is that would be a great metric to use and to look at and say, hey, yeah, no, I celebrate that because we've just defined our values, right? Now we have our values, and how well are we communicating our values? How well does the average person in our church embody these? Like, these are all things that you could be goals for you, right? There's the obvious, and I was going to say as well that when it comes to the moving target, my point is, don't get hung up on that, because what I'm saying is, even if your mission and all of that is a moving target, the win would be that you're doing it, that you're going on that mission and you're employing the strategies you need to employ to accomplish that mission, right? So those are all wins to me, right? So, the obvious one is things like we're going to launch on such and such date. Well, cool. Like, put that in stone. And as you approach it, the fact that I've trained my core team, that's a goal. Have you trained them? Do they understand what goals? Break them down. What are the wins? They understand and can articulate the gospel. That'd be a great goal. They understand, can articulate, and are committed to regularly sharing the gospel. Boom. Rad goal, right? They will, you could even have like a secret goal. Like, one of the things I do in the Jump School core team training is I tell them, don't tell them you're doing this, but write things down during the time you're together. And when you're writing things down, like, don't tell them, it's like your little black book on them. You're writing down what they're saying, what they're sharing, so you know how to pray for them. And you can bring this up when you're discipling. You could bring some of these things up. Hey, remember you said this. You don't tell them, pull out your little book and go, hey, you said. That'll creep people out. But just take notes when you're together with your core team. You're going to write down what their spiritual gifts are. Discovering people's spiritual gifts, that's a total win, right? Because when you know their spiritual, so these are some of the things that you could do right on your way to planting a church, the big goal of actually starting that church. There's a bunch of little goals that you could have all the way up to that.
Interesting. That's all I got to contribute to this.
Remarkable. Was I talking about that on our podcast recently?
No. What is that from?
It's the best. Like, I could watch that thing a million times. It's the best episode of The Little Rascals ever. I have to send you this link. It's the one where Spanky McFarlane, he must be like 4 or 5 years old himself, and they leave him in charge of the babies, and he has to babysit. Have you seen this one?
No.
And they all go fishing, all the big brothers, and they leave him with all the little brothers and sisters. And so every time he turns around, like, one's riding on the dishwasher, the other one's climbing up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs going, hello. And then he's like running up there, and he could barely carry him. It's totally dangerous. Like, Child Protection Services would be called on this program nowadays. But they were also quite racist on that show at times. So, you look at all those things, you're like, okay. But, oh my gosh, it's funny, that one. Because what he ends up doing is he ends up sticking them in bird cages, and he ends up gluing their butt to the floor. And I mean, it's all this terrible stuff. But there's this one kid that keeps to everything, goes, remarkable. Remarkable. All throughout, whatever Spanky's saying, remarkable. And then finally he looks at the kid and goes, shut up. So, anyways, I'll send this to you. It's funny as heck. I would love to have that. I would love to have that soundbite. Remarkable. Be great. When I'm going off on a rant,
guys are like, shut up. That's the one I want.
He goes like this. He goes, can you say anything other than remarkable? And the kid goes, remarkable. And he goes, shut up. That's the clip we need right there. But
this podcast just continues to amaze and inspire.
Indeed. And plug my books. Let's be real. Ministry Ninja YouTube channel. Just saying. So anyways, so the bottom line though is that, all these things, things like that you disciple people, that you've discipled X amount of people, and your next goal would be that each one of them would disciple a person. These are all the kinds of goals. You could have fundraising goals, like, hey, I'm going to talk to this many churches I'm going to talk to 20, and one's going to commit to sponsoring my church plant. And by the way, I've never done this. I've never had a church sponsor a church plant. So if you're like,
what do you mean you never had a church sponsor a church plant?
I've never gone and asked a pastor, will you give me money every month to plant a church? I've never done that.
Yeah, but Refuge Long Beach, they did.
No, Refuge Long Beach.
They did.
Yeah. No, Refuge Long Beach did. Yeah, but
no, but I mean, Refuge Long Beach was funded by Refuge Huntington Beach.
No, not a penny.
Not any of your salary?
Nope, never.
Are you serious?
Wait. No, that's wrong. That's wrong, actually. You're right.
I thought so.
You know, you're right. No, I totally forgot. No, you know what? So
give them credit. Give them credit.
No, you're right. No, they actually did. They paid me.
I got like 3-year rights out of you. Where's the recorder?
So they actually 3 times, 1 year, they did pay me for 1 year. Yeah, you're right.
There you go.
We're on our own. Yeah, you're right. I never thought about that. Well done. I mean, wasn't very much. I'm just joking.
Could you imagine?
I'm just teasing.
I'm sending this to Bill.
No, you know what was funny is I asked, and like anytime you ask for that, I remember kind of a quick blink, like, you know, and then he goes, yeah, we can do that. Like, you know, and I remember thinking, wow, that was a big ask. But out of love for me, he did it. And I forgot about that because I had just come off the mission field. You're 100% right. But, you know, yeah, so I guess I have. Hey, well done me. Apparently, I'm pretty good at that. I got a 1-for-1 streak, baby.
This is comedy.
I just don't remember. See, I'm what you would call the unconscious competent, apparently. But
we would call you something. I'm not sure that's it, but
Yep. So, hey, I hope that helps to answer the question. I mean, I'm just trying to wet your whistle a little bit, guys, and get you a little bit thinking in that direction. But I mean, there's so many things, and of course, if you, I see, I can't sell our old training, Pete, because that had all this stuff in it, all these little milestones that you should do.
I don't know why you didn't follow my advice and just name it something different.
Because they'll all remember it now.
No, they won't. They'll have no idea what it is.
What in the heck is that? Well, I did call it Jump School Core Team Training. Does that help? No, nothing. No. But see, just by
why
talking
didn't you
about
name the name of your nonprofit Jump School? Like, seriously. I don't even know how you came up with New Breed and then everything else is Jump School.
I don't know either.
Everything is Jump School.
You know, it's funny. We should have called our network Jump School, but we didn't.
I'm planting that seed. You're going to do a name change. You know, it's only $25 to change the name of your company. I've done it.
Jump School the network, Jump School the training, Jump School the musical, Jump School the YouTube channel.
What I think is funny is anybody who's a longtime listener of our podcast, God bless them for listening to us long term, but they will know.
Yeah.
Everything is Jump School. And I'm not kidding, guys. Seriously, I had a heart-to-heart with Peyton. I'm like, you cannot call this thing Jump School.
Please promise me you won't call it that.
It was the most heart-to-heart I could have with them. I'm giving them reason after reason. And what does he do? It's Jump School Core Team Training. All he did was add more words to it, but it's Jump School.
I did. But it's like that Scorpion and the Frog where he goes, it's my nature.
Well, what's funny too is we're in talks with a group to start up another magazine.
Jump
and
School.
I knew we had the right title, but I'm like, it needs to be called Jump School. Like it's got to be Jump School.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, you did say that. Yeah, and Jump School, the trading card game, it's all there. But hey, guys,
Jump School, The Reckoning, Jump School Awakening.
Ooh, that's your video game coming in there. I dig it.
There you go.
So, hey, anyways, guys, Pete, when you're doing all this, goal setting and celebrating of the small wins and building your Lego Voltron to reward yourself, what are you going to do about your financial needs and your IRS compliance and all that stuff, Pete? Surely you don't have time for that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm so grateful that you asked, because one thing that you failed to mention is, as a pastor, which I'm not, but if I were, you could understand. I got all these things I got to do, and if I also have IBS at the same time, I need a company like SimplifiedChurch.com.
Afternoon podcast.
And Josh Henry at SimplifiedChurch.com to take some of that paperwork off of my plate so I can deal with my IBS.
What's that, Pete? What's the name of it?
IBS. Oh, yeah.
What does it stand for?
You meant Simplified Church. Thank God he doesn't listen to, literally, thank God he does not listen to the podcast.
Hey, aren't you that thing linked with irritable bowel syndrome? That's right. Go to SimplifiedChurch.com and tell them Peyton and Pete and your irritable bowel syndrome sent you. Well, that's about all we have.
Feeling about this.
Glad he said it. He said it better than I could. But hey, guys, you've been listening to the Church Planner podcast, for which we are very sorry. But it's been Peyton and Pete reminding you in the afternoon, and that's our excuse, that if you want to reach the ones nobody's reaching, you need to go where nobody's going and do what nobody's doing.
The Church Planner podcast isn't the podcast that planners deserve, but the podcast they need.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planner podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planner podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplannerpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planner magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplannermagazine.com.